Hello, everyone. Last week we talked about the melacha of writing and erasing. We said that from the biblical sense, doraisa, it's forbidden to do something that is permanent, but the rabbis added the prohibition of writing temporarily because it might we might change our mind and make it permanent, or other reasons. Also, the idea of marit ayin, which means that it can be seen as if you're writing on Shabbat, even though you're not. And so, in Halacha 3 and 4, Rav Melamed gives a few more practical examples about such things. And so, we'll talk a lot about different decorations on cake, chocolate, cookies, etc. So, just as a heads up, a letter this gigantic, for writing, that would be permissible to cut on Shabbat, because the whole way to eat the cake is by cutting it. You're not trying to erase these letters. But in terms of this one, where there's small letters placed on it, Rav Melamed will say that we are supposed to try to cut between the letters, so maybe space them a little bit more between, because otherwise it could look like you are erasing. Obviously, we're not allowed to decorate on Shabbat with that, so with squeezing cream or colored sugar or chocolate, all that will be forbidden on Shabbat for the same exact reason. Also, on chocolate itself, again, if you have imprints on the chocolate and it's molded in that way, then you're allowed to eat it and you don't have to cut between the letters, because nobody breaks apart such a small piece of chocolate. I know it looks big, but it's not that big. And also, for example, the M&M candies, on each candy it says the letter M. We're not erasing it by eating them on Shabbat. And maybe last but not least, no, that wasn't there. So one of the images that I found, it actually said lasting imprints or lasting letters. So that's exactly the parameter. If it's supposed to last for longer than just this meal, or otherwise, some people just take it off or take the layer off and keep it, or want to take a picture of it. All of that will be included in this halacha. So one may not cut through letters that are written on a cake or in frosting, candy, or the like. Similarly, if a cake is decorated with a meaningful picture, like a tree or a house, one may not cut through the picture. Even though one's intention in cutting the cake is to eat it, since the letters or pictures have meaning and it is very clear that they are being erased, in quotation marks, when the cake is cut, it is rabbinically prohibited, and this is according to the Mordechai. Mordechai was one of the Rishonim just before the Shulchan Aruch, and the Rama follows that opinion. However, one may cut between the letters, even though this separates a word into its component parts. One does not violate mochek as long as each letter remains whole. Therefore, if a cake that one plans to serve on Shabbat is being decorated, it should be done in such a way that one will be able to cut between the letters, as we said, and pictures. Afterward, the slices of cake may be eaten, even though eating them will destroy the letters, since one is engaged in the process of eating and is not considered mochek. They're not doing it deliberately to erase. Also, you're not going to ever write on it again because it's going to go down into your stomach. When letters or pictures appear on cookies as a result of having been stamped into the cookie dough, as with Petty Bear cookies, I don't think that they sell them in the States, but in Israel, they're very, very popular. It's basically a cracker, but is made with sugar and flour. There is no prohibition against cutting or breaking them. Since these letters have no significance, erasing them incidentally is not prohibited. And again, they're much, much smaller. They just have the logo of the company or something like that on it. And I have quite a few chocolate bars that have similar things. Some maintain that it is rabbinically prohibited to read a book that has letters stamped or written on the edges of the pages, such as library stamp, because when one opens the book, the letters break apart, and when it is closed, they are reconstructed. In practice, Rabbi Melamed does not hold of this opinion. If no other book is available, one may read such a book, because many maintain that bringing the different parts of a letter together is not considered kotev, nor is separating them considered mochek. I'm not sure if there's other examples, but in the old days, in order to make sure that people knew where the book came from, there would be the library stamp on the side, and even in just the binding, they do gold leaf or other kinds of colors. It might be actually a pattern. Additionally, since a book is meant to be opened and closed repeatedly, this is not considered even short-term kotev and mochek, and thus involves no prohibition. But in terms of packaging, some rule that if opening a package of food will definitely tear letters or pictures that may not be opened on Shabbat. They permit opening the package only if it is possible that the letters or pictures will not be torn in the process. So if you open a package from the top of it, usually there's no lettering in the top, and if it slights tear to the side or whatever, that was not your intention, and so that's allowed. Others maintain that one may open such a package since all parts of the letters actually remain, but have simply been separated from each other based on Arma, and we also throw the package usually to the garbage or recycling. Lechatchila, it is proper to be stringent, but when there is no way to open a package without tearing letters, one may be lenient. One who opens the package has no interest in erasing the letters, and the action is not constructive but destructive. One may wear shoes whose soles are stamped with letters or pictures, even though walking in these shoes may leave impressions of these letters or pictures on mud or similar surfaces. But I would say that if somebody poured cement and the kids want to, leave their impression on it, that is definitely not allowed because that is permanent. And anyway, they should stay away from that. But just in terms of Shabbat, you should be careful not to step on cement that is fresh. One who wrote on himself with a pen may still wash his hands and dry them in the usual way, since ink generally does not come off as a result of washing and drying one's hands one time. However, if he would like the letters to come off, he must be careful to wash and dry his hands gently so that he does not assist in the removal of the letters. So if somebody wrote, for example, a phone number on Friday late afternoon, they should make sure that they should copy it before Shabbat in the same way. And in terms of temporary writing, going back a little bit to what we said about the book, he gives one example that I don't remember ever doing, which was to leave an impression in the book next to a word or something like that in order to correct it or to remember that there's a special note there. But more practical is the next halacha. So, as we have seen, temporary writing is rabbinically prohibited. Erasing something when one does not plan to write something else in its place is rabbinically prohibited as well. Therefore, one may not write in the condensation on a window or erase such writing, and similarly, one may not form letters in the sand or erase them. So, like I said, I'll skip over the halacha of the book. Some allow a sick person to use a thermometer strip. I don't think that I've seen any since the late 70s. And they maintain that it is not really writing since the numbers are already imprinted on the strip, and the temperature only makes them visible for a short time, after which they disappear. Since the issue is rabbinic, one may be lenient in times of need, and even if you're not cholesh b'sakana, a person who is risked their lives is allowed to do so. And so maybe the most practical is colorful blocks may be put next to each other to form a letter, and thread may be laid down in the shape of a letter. This is because the blocks or thread already exist. One is simply arranging them. Similarly, he may juxtapose two cards that together form a picture, letter, or word. This is because all the forms already exist. They are simply being brought together. So if you're trying to teach the kids the Hebrew alphabet, and there's quite a few card games like that, some of them are basic levels. So there's like putting together two cards, which are like a little puzzle, and that is allowed. Rabbi Melamed specifically says, and I'm just not going to give all the examples, but he says that adults past bar mitzvah should not be doing jigsaw puzzles on Shabbos. Um, I'm not sure what his opinion is about Sudoku because my mother owns a Sudoku for Shabbat where there isn't a set um, order of the numbers, so it's not really letters. But last but not least, there's a machloket about Scrabble on Shabbat, and I think that I believe that Rabbi Melamed is lenient about Scrabble as long as you make sure that you don't keep score or write down words to remember. Again, it's about what people are used to do or not to do during such a game. And we'll stop here. Open up for questions.